All right, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm excited to be here. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about VMware Cloud on AWS. We've had a lot of traffic to our booths. I'm assuming that some of you came and talked with us over the last couple of days. It's been great. What we really want to do here is, this is a follow-up session. We had one earlier today by Arti at like 3:15. How many of you attended her session? Raise of hands. All right. About half of you, that's great. So what I want to do is I want to take and build on what Arti talked about, but I also need to set a ground level for those that didn't attend. So for those of you that did attend that, bear with me as we cover a few slides that are similar. What I want to do then is go in and then focus on the hybridity of this product. Okay, what that means as far as your on-prem data center with VMware Cloud on AWS and VMware Cloud on AWS with native AWS services. So we'll do some demos. We'll talk about a number of different things around that. So let's go ahead and get started. So really what happened here was a couple of years ago, we noticed that there was a gap in the industry. And Amazon noticed that there was a gap in the industry. And what we saw was that there was a binary decision that had to be made for the IT admins. When they're deploying applications, do I deploy to AWS or do I deploy to my on-prem data center? And for a lot of customers, that was a really difficult decision because there's pros and cons to both. And for customers that were just barely venturing out into AWS, they had to set up all new operations for that, right? You have to have new scripts. You're working with a new API. You've got a whole new technology to learn. So before I keep going, before I jump into the rest of the slide, just by a raise of hands, how many of you are currently VMware admins to some degree or have been a VMware admin? Okay, great. All right, it's great to know my audience. So we saw that this was an issue. Amazon saw that this was an issue, and we decided that there was a gap that we could both fill together. We come along with our management software, with our virtualization stack that we've been using with customers throughout the last roughly 10 years, and it's grown, and the portfolio's grown over the last 10 years significantly. And Amazon, with the flexibility of the cloud, the number of cloud services, which I think at reInvent, they said that you guys are over 100 services in AWS. So we're able to bring all those things together and offer a single choice for our customers. Now, the big question is why? Right? Why are we putting VMware in the cloud? Are we just slapping vCenter Server and our products in the cloud and calling us a cloud company? Okay? I'll tell you the short answer is no, we're not doing that, but we'll talk about why this is really important. We saw that a number of customers needed to maintain and expand their current operations. IT just keeps growing. IT is growing at an exponential rate, and our customers that have on-premises data centers have to decide whether or not they're going to rent out, contract out more space in a colo, build new data centers, move to the cloud, maybe a little bit of both, okay? One of the big use cases that we saw when we started putting out feelers with all of our customers is, what are some of the reasons why you would want to use VMware Cloud on AWS? And this was one of the use cases that came back all the time. Okay, we have capacity where we're at. We're running out of capacity. We don't want to sign another agreement with the colo. We don't want to have to maintain our own infrastructure. So everything new we want to push to the cloud, but we want to continue to use the same tools, the same products as we did in the past. We know these, we're comfortable with them, and we see their benefits. The next one that we saw a lot of was consolidation migration. So before I came to VMware, I was at EMC Consulting doing migrations. Okay, I was doing P2Vs, we were doing data center consolidations, and we saw this all the time. Customers or companies acquire other companies, which means they also acquire their data centers, their infrastructure, and they have to find ways to consolidate all of that or close out of certain data centers. And we would do projects that would last 2, 3, 4 years to do that. Well, customers needed a way to evacuate quickly out of those data centers, close those contracts, and keep the business going. The final use case that we saw a lot of was around cyclical capacity, test dev. I want resources, but I don't want to have to pay for them all the time if they're not being used. So out of all the survey results that we got and all the customers that we questioned, these were the 3 big things that kept coming back over and over and over again. And we said, we think we can fill that gap. So here's some of the problems that we're solving. The first one is the whole consumption and effort of being an infrastructure admin, a VI admin, okay? For those of you who are VMware admins, if any of you have installed anything more than vSphere, you know it can take some time. I helped with vRealize automation back when it was called VCAC, and the time it would take me to deploy, configure, and get everything the way I needed it was several days. And that was after I'd done it multiple times. All right? Now, think about big IT organizations having to do patches and upgrades. And if you guys have been those that have been doing the VMware updates, right, I'm sorry that you've had to be in the data center on a weekend or overnight doing these patches. Okay? It's not easy and it's not fun. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to take care of for you. So VMware Cloud on AWS is a managed service. And we go ahead and we take care of all the patching, the firmware, the issues, the support. We do all of that for you, and you consume this as a service. Okay? The second one here, multi-cloud usually means you have to rewrite things in different, with different APIs. You have different operational consistency issues that you run into. I was talking with someone at the booth that said, we have stuff in VMware, we have stuff in Azure, we have stuff in AWS, we have stuff in Kubernetes. We're all over the place, and we have to do different things for each one of these environments. Or we have to mimic the same thing for each of the different environments. And it is a hassle, it's a pain. We don't want to have to do this. So being able to use VMware's products in the cloud means that you're getting the cloud capabilities, but you're still using the tools, the scripts, the APIs that you've been using over the past few years. Lack of workload portability. Okay? Even getting workloads into Amazon can be a pain. You can use a converter, you can use multiple different kinds of converters, but at the end of the day, trying to convert an entire application across can be painful. And so for a lot of customers, they will try to do it this way, and then a lot of times they just rebuild. Now, that can work if you've got the time and if you've got the manpower and the energy, but a lot of people don't. And so we said, why don't we make it easy for you to take a virtual machine that you have on-prem and put it up in the cloud as a virtual machine and do it one of a few different simple ways. And I'll show you guys those here in just a minute. The next one is lack of integrations. A lot of people move to Amazon for the ability to use things like RDS, S3, EC2. It's made simple for you. So customers go, yeah, we like using VMware, but we also want to take advantage of some of these services over here. How do we do that? So we'll talk a little bit about that. RT went into great detail on that in her session, but we'll do some demos around that as well. The final one is different infrastructure for different types of workloads. You see this with containers, you see this with VMs, you see this with a number of different types of technology that's out there. People want to be able to have a consistent infrastructure that houses all the different types of technology needs that they have. Okay? So that's the big string of the why. And let's talk about the what. What is VMware Cloud on AWS? So on this side, let's see if my trusty clicker will do it, okay? You've got your on-premises data center. Okay? This is what you manage, you maintain, you take care of, you baby it from the ground up. You have to know everything about this. Okay? On the right-hand side, you've got your native AWS services, EC2, RDS, Elastic Load Balancers, S3, you name it, it's sitting here on the right-hand side. Well, right in the middle is VMware Cloud on AWS. Now, VMware Cloud on AWS uses bare metal EC2 hosts. There's no nested virtualization. So you get 4 bare metal hosts when we deploy our SDDC within Amazon's data centers. We're currently in 3 regions. We're in US West 2, Oregon, US East 1, Northern Virginia, and we're currently here in, is this EU West 2, I believe? London. We will be in Germany coming up in, I believe it's Frankfurt. And that's on our public roadmap. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes as well as other regions around the world. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit every geo, because a lot of these companies are global, and from there we can spider vein out within these different geos and add in more regions. So expect to see this coming down the road. Within VMware Cloud on AWS, you're getting NSX, which for those of you who are not familiar with these terms, NSX is our virtualized networking, vSAN, which is our virtualized storage, vSphere, which is our management of these hosts and the workloads, or vSphere runs the workloads, and vCenter is the management plane for us. Okay? You get all that together, we deploy it for you, you consume it, and it's as easy as that. We also have, if you look at the dotted line up here on the screen that goes around both vCenter servers, have something new called hybrid linked mode. And what's really cool about this is that for anyone that's used on-prem vCenter and had more than one vCenter, there's been technologies or features out there that we call enhanced link mode or embedded link mode, and those allow you to see multiple vCenter servers within the same vSphere client. If you want to get technical, you had to be part of the same SSO domain to be able to see those. Well, VMware Cloud on AWS uses a different SSO domain than what you have on-prem. We've created this product or this feature, hybrid linked mode, that will allow you to still sync these two together and leverage the identity source of your on-prem vCenter to log in to VMware Cloud on AWS and be able to see all of your vCenter servers together and manage them that way. And we'll do that live here in just a few minutes. Okay. We're currently, like I said, we're currently in 3 regions right now. We have the possibility to expand into many more, right, as this continues to pick up steam and velocity. And as I was alluding to before, this whole thing is sold to you by VMware. We take care of the bill with Amazon. So all you have to do is worry about consuming this. We'll send you a bill for the hardware, the software, and the support bundled together as one bill, and then we make square with Amazon. All you have to do is essentially deploy your SDDC, link it to your on-prem data center if you want to, and then start putting workloads onto the service. So the next question I usually get is, well, that's great. You start out with 4 hosts, but how big are they? Okay. These hosts each have 2 18-core processors. So there's 32 cores per host, 72 virtual CPU, vCPU. Each of them have 500 gigs of RAM and 16 terabytes of NVMe storage. There's about 10.5 terabytes of storage raw that can be used with vSAN, and you go from there. So per host, you're looking at these numbers here. And we can expand up to 32 hosts per cluster and up to 10 clusters per SDDC. So a single SDDC currently can house 320 of these servers. If that's not enough compute power for you, let me know, and we'll have to figure something out. All right, so one of the really cool things about this is, like I said before, we're not just slapping our products into the cloud and calling ourselves a cloud company, right? There's certain things that we're doing and changing in our products to be able to take advantage of Amazon's APIs, that cloud flexibility and scale, all right? One of the things that we're able to do is, let's say you start out with 4 hosts, okay? And you fill those up to the point where you need a 5th host. On premises, it would probably take roughly 3 to 9 months, depending on how good and how mature your IT operation is, to get the budget, to order new servers, to have them shipped, racked and stacked, configured, and for you to start putting workloads on them, okay? We can do this in roughly 10 minutes and 2 clicks, or 1 API call. So all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about projecting and forecasting months in advance on if you're going to run out of space. If you need more space, you call the API, you hit the button, whichever you choose, and within 10 minutes, Amazon has pulled in another host from the cloud, added it to your cluster, configured it for the cluster, and increased the data store for your for vSAN, and you're on your way. The second thing that's pretty cool is this whole notion of on premises, you need to have additional capacity for if something fails. So for about 18 months, I was the product manager for vSphere DRS and HA. And one of the things that customers would sometimes complain about is they'd say, I have like 15 clusters in my vCenter server, all right? And each of those clusters has 1 additional host more than it needs, just in case, I'll do the air quotes, that something fails, right? Just in case, so that my workloads can restart on the healthy host. That starts adding up, okay? With automated cluster remediation, we can take advantage of the cloud. And if we notice or detect or even think that a host is going to fail or has issues, we'll automatically grab another host, bring it in, sync everything across, and then kick out the bad host, okay? Then Amazon can go in and fix whatever's wrong with that host when they want to. It can be later that day or in 6 months. It doesn't matter for you, the customer, because it's not your problem, right? So there's things like this that we're able to do that allow our customers to take advantage of cloud. Now, teaser, we'll come to this live. I don't want to do this on a PowerPoint. So, talking about hybridity. Let's say that you get an SDDC up in the cloud. How do you fill it up? Are you going net new? Do you want to bring workloads across from on-prem? All these things are items that you need to consider. And so we have a few different ways that you can do this. The first thing is leveraging something called Content Library. Content Library was introduced a few vSphere versions ago, and it allows you to take a specific vCenter server and import your templates, your ISOs, your scripts into this repository, and then share that either just locally with that vCenter or publish it so that other vCenter servers can take this and sync that data. Then you have one source of truth on the publisher Content Library. If you need to update a gold build, update it there, hit sync. It'll sync out to the rest of the content libraries. Now, quick poll. How many of you have a folder on a data store named ISOs? And you've got a lot of ISOs in there, and garbage and stuff. All right. How many of you on another host have, on that data store, a folder named ISOs full of stuff? All right? A lot of you that aren't raising your hands, you're lying. I know. Okay? This happens. We get ISO sprawl, we get template sprawl, and this is a way that we can clean that up. And not only clean it up, but be able to distribute this out. So I can take this, and what you see here is you see a content library that is in one of our vCenter servers, and you can see it's got 8 different templates in it. Once I deploy my SDDC in VMware Cloud on AWS, I give it the URL that this gives me in the settings, and instantly start syncing those, and from there I can start deploying my workloads. Okay? That's one way to quickly fill up and start going in your Cloud SDDC. One of the other ways, if you're using hybrid linked mode, and you want to do this through the UI or sync tags and other items, is using cross vCenter vMotion. Okay? This requires that you're on vSphere 6.5 or higher, and it allows you to live migrate workloads with 0 downtime. There's a few other caveats in there, like layer 2 networking and things that we can discuss later on. But the nice thing about vMotion is there's no downtime, there's no re-IPing your workloads, and everything can just run. Now, you don't want to saturate your link, so you don't want to just try and blast through as many as possible. But what this would look like, let's see if this will play here, is something like this. We have my on-prem vCenter server, and we've got all these Ubuntu VMs. Now, I can go ahead and look inside of my Cloud SDDC, and under the compute resource pool, I just have 2 VMs. I'm going to use Power CLI here, and I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. And Arti showed how to vMotion a single VM earlier today, so I'm going to one-up her and vMotion 20. And normally I do this live. She referenced me as the living on the edge guy. And it's because at pretty much every conference I go to, I actually do this live. I had worries about doing this across the pond. Is that what you guys call it, the pond? The ocean? Back to the US, and I didn't want this to just bomb on me. So we're using a video of this, but as you can see, and I've sped it up, it was taking roughly 58 seconds to a minute and a half for each of these smaller virtual machines to go from on-prem up to VMware Cloud on AWS. Okay? We do have Direct Connect running here. It's a 1 gig link, and as you can see, it's going through those relatively quickly. And then they show up in the behind this PowerShell screen. You can see those showing up in VMware Cloud on AWS. Okay, we're just going to move on for the sake of time. We have something else called Hybrid Cloud Extension. Now, this is included with VMware Cloud on AWS. This is a really neat tool because unlike vMotion or cross vCenter vMotion, it doesn't require hybrid linked mode, and there's a lot of other things that it doesn't require. It pretty much just works. HCX is another term for this. Allows us to do bulk vMotions or bulk migrations via replication to our target vCenter. One of the great things about this is if we do a replication, we can actually schedule when it finally clicks over. So we could replicate 99% of this, but then schedule the failover, right, on an off hour or during a maintenance window. So we can prep it all, get it moving, and then at a time of our choice, we can finish flipping those bits and move everything across. Now, I have a video for this one as well that's about 4 minutes. So instead of boring you, I just want to show you very quickly what the product actually looks like. So we'll do part of this, then we'll jump ahead to the very end. As you can see here, we've got our London data center as our target. If we look at our interconnects, there's just 2 components, the network extension and the VM migration service that we've deployed that allow us to stretch the network and allows us to do this deploy the way that we need to. So we can come in here to migrate virtual machines. And if any of you have used VMware Converter before, you'll see that this looks very similar to the options that you have with Converter. At the very top, we can choose a default options for all the virtual machines that we're going to move at this point. If we want to change any of those specifically for other virtual machines, then down below, as we're selecting the virtual machines, you'll see that we have those options as well to change those and override those. We also have the ability to update VMware tools and VM hardware version during this. And we can go all the way back to vSphere 5.0 and bring that in to VMware Cloud on AWS. So 5.0 and newer, we can bring in, whereas if you're doing it the previous way that I was showing, you need to be on vSphere 6.5. So included with VMware Cloud on AWS, it's a great way to migrate your workloads. We're going to skip ahead here to about halfway. Just kidding. Here we go. All right, you can see some of them have finished at this point, others are still going, and you can see that these ones we did as replication, which gives us that option to go ahead and finish it later. Okay, getting into some of the fun stuff and the cool stuff. One of the big things we talked about is the benefit of being able to leverage AWS services with your VMware VMs. Now, this is not something you can do anywhere else in any other cloud. And the reason is because we did specific engineering with the AWS team to make a lot of this happen. So if we throw this up on the board, let's see if I can show this. Okay, think back to my image that I had before. You have your on-premises data center here. You've got your vCenter, your management VMs, and your compute VMs, we'll say, your workloads. On the right-hand side, we have AWS services. Okay, we've got our EC2, S3, RDS, whatever you're running in AWS. And in the middle, we have VMware Cloud on AWS. Okay, and that's what we talked about. Now, we have this special thing here in the middle. We have two different gateways. We have two different networks. Okay, the first one is a management network. Okay, the management gateway controls all of the networking for all of our management VMs. So that's vCenter, NSX, hybrid cloud extension, SRM, vSphere replication. Anything that we put out there goes in there, and we protect it. And there's not a way for your compute workloads to actually communicate directly with the ESX hosts and everything. It's a best practices with security. The compute gateway is where the customer puts all of their workloads. Okay, simple enough. You have a gateway. You can create as many logical networks as you want, essentially. You connect your VMs to those port groups, and you're off on your merry way. One of the things that you'll see here, okay, is coming off of the compute gateway is a little line that goes to the ESX host, and if we follow it across, it says ENI, located in the customer's VPC. This Elastic Network Interface is kind of the magic sauce that allows us to work with these AWS services through the back end, right, securely over a high bandwidth, low latency connection. What that allows us to do is it allows us to take advantage of things like allowing my VMs to talk with an RDS database, or my VMs to talk with an Elastic Load Balancer. So before we keep going from here, I'm going to kick off a demo for us. It takes about 5 minutes to run, so I'm going to kick it off now. If I come into AWS, I want to show you, I've got 4 databases. I'm going to kick off a 5th one that has to do with automation. It'll have automation in the name somewhere. I'll come into EC2, and we'll see that I have a few target groups, but I don't have one that says Automated VMC Demo at the bottom. And I only have one load balancer. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off a script that is in PowerShell, but it kicks off the deployment of a virtual machine from a content library on the VMware side. At the same time, it kicks off an RDS database in Amazon. It'll then kick off creating a target group and an Elastic Load Balancer. Once the VM deploys, it will grab the IP address of that VM, add it to the target group, attach the target group to the load balancer, and bring back all that data for us to be able to use these two technologies together. So, I hope I didn't lose anyone. We'll kick this off. Now, all right, that's going to go ahead. It's doing some validation. Now, this is one coding language talking to 2 different technologies, bringing them together and integrating them so that we can do some pretty cool stuff. Now, it's going to go ahead and give us some information. We'll let that run on the back end, and then we'll check all this here in a few minutes. So that being said, let's jump back into the PowerPoint. Everyone still with me? Awesome. I love it. OK, so we're talking about APIs and scripting. VMware in the past has been a SOAP-based API company. And we realized several years ago that we needed to move away